Reimagining Success, episode 224. You're listening to the Reimagining Success podcast, where we help you design a business and a life that allows you freedom from the 9-to-5. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg, ex-corporate good girl, now a business mentor and coach, author, mum of 2, and I'm here to help you create more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. Now let's get started with redefining success outside of the 9-to-5. Hello there, welcome back to another episode of the Reimagining Success podcast. And as I start speaking, I can already hear, at least in my head, that my voice sounds a bit bunged up. So apologies for that. It might not sound different to you. I've had a bit of a chesty cough and cold for the last few weeks, as many of you perhaps have as well. And I can't wait any longer, because if I don't record a podcast now, then you'll be without podcasts. We can't have that after 4 years of consistently sharing podcast episodes. So I'm going to batch record some podcast episodes this morning. So apologies for the next few weeks. I may sound a little bit, but hopefully it's all fine. It's all good. I'm feeling fine. It's just one of those annoyances, isn't it? So grateful to be feeling pretty much healthy and just hoping to get over these minor niggles in the meantime. So for today's episode, as I record this is hot off the press, but it will be a few weeks later when you get it. I actually wanted to pick up on the whole topic of quitting. When is the right time to quit? It's obviously a topic that I've been exploring for years, having actually quit my job 10 years ago now, amazingly. So I'm sure there'll be something there as well, some celebration, some extra content for this year. And it's something, of course, I've been supporting my clients with as they've wanted to quit their jobs. And most specifically now, the reason why this has come up is when Jacinda Ardern declared suddenly that she was going to quit, even though she'd had these incredibly fulfilling years in office. And many of us would agree that she's done an incredible thing. But without getting into politics, I've already had some controversial comments on my post on LinkedIn. But it's such an achievement, of course, to reach that top job, to have that extreme, I would say, level of success, to be an inspiring leader at the pinnacle of your career. And the question is, what do you do then? Do you keep pushing, neglecting other areas of your life, whatever the cost? And of course, the topic of can women have it all has come up, and that's a topic for another day. But she said she no longer has enough in the tank to do the job justice. She's human. She's given everything she can. And for her, it was time. And, I'm always reminded of those sort of universal truths, really, that life is short, health is paramount, our loved ones matter most of all. And it's so easy just to go, yeah, life is short. But actually, it's so profound. And of course, we only really usually realise it when something sad happens, a pandemic, an illness, a death, worst case scenario, something really serious happens to trigger us to remember what really matters. I've shared many times on the podcast, and I had a resource in the past, the 7 signs that it's time to quit. I'll share those now, but I wanted to give you a few other thought starters in case you are pondering, because I know it's such a difficult decision. And I've had that question so many times, when is the right time to quit? And of course, there is no right time. So sorry to tell you that. There is no right answer as well. So it's a difficult one. For most people, I'd say it's sort of a slow murmuring process over the years. And then for whatever reason, things conspire to just kind of, ta-da, it happens. For me, certainly, it wasn't a big crisis or anything. It was years of feeling I'm not in the right place. And then, for practical reasons, I think, personal reasons, professional reasons, all kind of worked together. Some people do, unfortunately, burn out, face redundancy and so on. And in a way, you might wish for those things because you're forced into taking action. But please don't do that, because it's so much more powerful if you can make the decision on your own terms. So yes, I know it's a bit of a relief when the decision is taken away from you, but oh my goodness, it's so much better if you can prepare, think it through, plan your time, get the support you need and so on. So those 7 signs that I mentioned, 7 signs that it might be time to quit. I'll put that caveat. First of all, you've stopped learning and growing. That's a huge one for a lot of us, right? You plateau, you're in your comfort zone. Yeah, I know how to do this now. I'm not really developing personally and professionally. So that's a big one. You've stopped learning and growing. The positives no longer outweigh the negatives. Simply speaking, often it's, wow, I get incredible benefits and I get to travel and get wined and dined and I have the stable salary and the pension and the respect and so on. Perhaps those things are less valuable after a while. we've done the travel, we've done the luxury hotels and the fancy restaurants and so on. Maybe we're a bit tired, we want to spend time with our family or doing our own things that we're interested in. The stress is getting worse and worse, and that's sort of weighing heavily in the other direction and so on. So the negatives start to outweigh the positives. Another one, which is interesting, is when everything is fine. That's the third sign. So when everything is fine, it's not terrible. I think that's what it was like for me. It's not awful. It's not a crisis, but it's, there's nothing really exciting. And to be honest, there is a time for that in our lives, right? When we can just enjoy that kind of plateau, enjoy other areas of our life in the meantime and just coast a little bit. It's not a bad thing. However, if we're ambitious, if we want to keep growing, challenging ourselves, doing exciting things, then maybe that's not where we want to be long term. Fourth sign is you live for the weekends, that classic TGIF, and then, oh no, it's Monday, scary, what's it called? Sunday scaries, Monday blues. It's so accepted in our society that we hate the week and we just count the hours until the end of the day, count the days until the end of the week, count the weeks until our next holiday. You're getting dangerously close to burnout. This is such a tricky one because often we won't really face the reality until we actually do burn out. But if you do have the self-awareness, then that's really important. Sixth sign is your values are misaligned with your employers. That's a really tough one, but you may find that actually the products you're creating or it might be your immediate team and boss, it might be the way they've handled redundancies and so on, just don't sit well with you. And then finally, of course, if you do have a burning desire to do something else, that can really pull you in another direction. I've talked as well about the push-pull reasons. So the push reasons are the negatives that are kind of pushing you out from where you are, and the pull are the things that are pulling you towards something. A lot of us will have the realization that we don't want to do this anymore, but we're not yet sure what that new pull is. So that's where it gets tricky, but also where it gets exciting. So those are the 7 signs, but I wanted to give you actually really a list of questions to think about. And of course, I'm afraid because this is a one-way broadcast to you, I can't probe deeper and help you as a sounding board. If you do want to have a call, of course, we can talk about that. You can book a call at onestepoutside.com/call. But I want to give you these questions. Pause, think about them, write them down, and I'll give you as much indication as I can of how to reflect on these. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just maybe different considerations that you haven't thought of before. So the first one is, do you actually know why you want to quit? It seems obvious, but I think it's really important to reflect on the reasons. Again, think of the push reasons, maybe some of those signs I just mentioned. Think of the pull reasons that are pulling you towards something. Is it a bad boss? Is it an individual in the team? Is it a particular situation? Is it a project? Is it a phase? Which leads me to the second question. Have you thought about this for a while, right? Because sometimes we just have a bad day, a bad week, and actually when things settle a bit or when the team is rejuggled, it's going to be better. And it's just like, everything gets frustrating sometimes, right? And that's okay. But if it's been there for a long time, weeks, months, years, it's probably worth paying attention to that thought that you're having. What are the alternatives to quitting? Sometimes we think very black and white. It's either we quit entirely, cold turkey, oh my gosh, I was going to swear, not going to swear, tell your boss where to go today, and that's it. And of course, that puts you suddenly in a position where you don't have a salary, you don't know what you want to do, and that's quite scary. Or you have to stay in this job where you're not happy. Or by the way, it could also be a business, right? I'm speaking to people now who are considering quitting their own business, which raises similar, but also some different challenges as well. So what are the alternatives to quitting? Can you improve your work-life balance? Can you, try to set some better boundaries? Can you start a new hobby or something? Can you make time for the things that are important to you? Can you start saying no to the other things that are getting in the way? What can you do to rejig the parameters within your existing situation? Because there may be some creative solutions that at least can extend your situation for longer at least. But that's really important. Think about the alternatives to quitting. Have you tried everything else already, right? Again, have you spoken to your boss about the situation? Have you tried to say no, set boundaries, work less in the evenings, prioritize the things that really matter to you? What have you done, asked for, working from home more often, whatever it is that would help you? If you're feeling isolated, if you're working your own business, have you tried to, create a team around you, or go to co-working spaces, find that sense of belonging and connectedness in another way? Have you tried everything else already? And if not, is there anything else you could try that would, spark your interest again in the current job or business, or create that thing that you're missing, or help you with the balance, whatever it is? Speaking of balance and so on, do you feel you have the mental capacity to make this decision right now? And that sounds like a big question, but if you're not sleeping, if you're stressed, if there's a big, project or some difficulty at work, maybe right now, or in fact, a personal issue at home, maybe now is not the moment when you need to be making big decisions. So again, can you do something to take care of yourself mentally, physically, rest, even take some time off? Could it be just a holiday? If possible, a sabbatical? That's what I did. I had 3 months off. I didn't have to quit right away. Can you prioritize taking care of yourself and the situation at hand rather than have to make any kind of drastic decision right now? Obviously, again, if this has been going on for months or even years, then you probably don't want to wait. And there comes a point when the pain of staying is greater than the fear and so on of leaving. Do you know what you want to do instead? Again, often we start by realizing this is not what we want to do, but we're not yet sure what we want to do instead. And I hold my hands up here because I quit without really knowing. I knew some things. I knew I wanted to travel more. I knew I wanted to write more, have more sort of freedom creatively, work-wise, and so on. I certainly didn't have the specific goal to start the business that I'm in now. I had no idea that was possible or that would be a good fit and so on, right? So I think you need a kind of North Star of the parameters, of the criteria you're after for the next thing. You don't have to have the exact business plan or job description and so on, but you certainly need, I need more of this, less of that. Here's my plan in terms of, I'm going to do this course or take this time off and so on, because the last thing you want to do is quit and then suddenly have this blank slate and feel completely overwhelmed. And that sounds exciting to be able to do anything you want, but sometimes you have too much choice, you end up not doing anything. Speaking of which, if you don't know what you want to do, are you financially secure enough to quit without knowing what that next step is? So people will often say enough of 6 months runway. I'd say ideally a year. And of course, we don't want to spend that money. So it's not to say that you want to be happily spending all your savings, but it's knowing that you don't have the pressure to earn a salary that's going to take care of your 11 children, dogs, and massive house and mortgage and whatever tomorrow, right? It allows you the freedom to explore a little bit. And, again, there's a spectrum of options. Perhaps you could take a part-time job, or you could do something that kind of brings in that stable salary while you explore your true passion, as it were, because it's a lot of pressure to put on a new idea, a new business idea, something that's more creative, a bit risky, and so on. So far better to have some kind of income in the meantime, right? But really thinking about, do you have the finances, a supportive partner, your own savings, ideally, some kind of income stream that will allow you to quit and have that break to reflect on what you want to do. Sort of flipping it on its head as well, do you know what's keeping you where you are? So is it fear of the unknown? Is it a sense of obligation to your team? You haven't been there that long, or you have been there for a really long time. Is it because this is what you always wanted to do and people tell you you're so privileged and lucky to have this incredible job? What is it that's keeping you where you are? Because it's really important to understand that side of it as well. It might seem like there are so many reasons why you should quit and you should do this other thing, but I'm sure since it's a difficult decision for you, there are good reasons why you're staying there. It's your comfort zone. It's, where you've built relationships, the company has looked after you or not, your colleagues, you're passionate about the mission, whatever it is. So really be kind to yourself and recognize that there are valid reasons why you're staying there. And then, of course, are those reasons strong enough to stay? Are they the right reasons, as it were? And or can you create those things elsewhere? Can you bring that sense of purpose? Can you nurture those relationships, in another place? And then finally, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, but if you close your eyes and imagine that you're still here in this job, in this business, in this exact same situation, 1 year from now, let's say, how do you feel? And that's a tricky one. And again, I recommend that you pause this, you go back, you grab a pen and paper, you journal, you reflect, you go for a walk, whatever it is. But this one is really feeling, because to end the episode, and I hope it's been helpful. I know it's just sort of a list of questions, but it's often asking the right questions that is the most powerful thing. There is no right decision. In fact, any decision either way will be a relief, because as I was discussing with someone the other day, actually, it's the uncertainty that kills you. It's the umming and ahhing and stressing about should I do this, should I do that, and not really being fully present in either decision. Making some kind of decision, human nature is such that we make that decision the right decision, which is incredible. It's very powerful. The fact that we can do that is why we're so adaptable and so on. But once you've made the decision, you will make that work for you. So that's the good news. And the final thing I want to say is that ultimately it really is a gut decision, intuitive. Intuition actually is something that is not so magical as it sounds. It really is sort of the subconscious taking all the information that we know. So taking a lot of the rational things, but picking up on things that perhaps we're not able to do with our conscious mind. So it's a really powerful tool that unfortunately we're not so good at listening to. But we do so much analysis, pros and cons. We ask everybody for their advice. We can never have complete information, as they say in economics. We'll never know every single scenario, future parallel universes and so on. So, of course, we can and should do the due diligence and thinking through the upside, the downside, advantages, disadvantages, different options and so on. But ultimately, it needs to be your decision. You can't let other people decide, or you don't want to really. And again, there is no right decision, but the best decisions I found in my experience have been the intuitive ones. And thinking of my own decision to quit my job, which is one of many decisions to quit, honestly, but it's the obvious one. I absolutely made that intuitively, because of course there were people who said, oh yeah, sounds amazing. But most people said, oh my goodness, that sounds really scary. That doesn't make sense. Why are you doing that? Obviously, parents, family who care for you might think that that's an odd thing to do. There's also, by the way, coming back to the question of what's keeping you somewhere, it's sort of the sunk cost, but what is it? The fact that you put so much sweat and tears into this particular role, and you've given your life to this company, this business, and so on, that it's really hard to turn your back on that. But what does that mean? You have to stay there forever? Because and I say that flippantly, but all the better to stop now, right? If you've already put all that work in, don't put more work into that. It doesn't matter how fast you're going if you're heading in the wrong direction, I believe Stephen Covey said. So, you're young, and I say that to you whatever age you are, because if you're listening to this, I think you have many years ahead of you to make a different decision. And what's important now is what you do today and moving forwards. It doesn't really matter what we've done in the past. You get to make a different choice today. So I share the 7 signs that you might be ready to quit, but also a few prompts there for you to reflect. And again, if you do want to chat about this, onestepoutside.com/call, and we can see what it could look like to support you with a decision like this, whether you're thinking of, selling your business, or perhaps quitting your job, changing your business, whatever that quitting decision is. It was prompted by Jacinda Ardern, but obviously it's something that's I've certainly been reflecting on for a long time, and even in a business now, and that's a topic for another episode, but it's always a decision. Do I keep pushing on this particular business strategy? Is this program worth continuing with? Am I still passionate about it? Maybe it's really successful, but it's not what I want to do in the future. On the other hand, there's this aspect of grit and persistence and resilience and so on. So, that it's a complicated, nuanced area, and there are no right answers is the only thing I'd again reiterate. So I hope that was useful. Bit of a rambling episode with a few thought starters there, a few questions. I'd love to hear what your own experience of quitting has been. Of course, we could have you on the podcast if you want to share your story, but certainly I'd love to hear the parts of what I've shared today that resonate, and maybe some of those questions that were really powerful for you, or anything else that I haven't mentioned. So you can contact me on any social channel where you're following me, and I'd love to hear your insights, because, I continue in my research and understanding of this topic. So I'd really appreciate your help there as well. So, knowing when to quit, looking forward to your thoughts, and I'll see you back here next week. Bye for now. Are you at that point where you're asking yourself, is this really what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? And the answer is a resounding no, but you're not yet sure what you want to do instead. I get it. I was in your shoes back in 2013 when I took a good hard look at myself and my CV, and up until then I'd followed the conventional path. good school, good university, good job. I was also single while more and more friends around me were settling down with partners and babies. Now, fast forward to today, and I've built a coaching and consulting business. I've published 2 books with more on the way. I've launched a podcast. But more than that, I've been able to travel the world. I've made more time for friends and family. And I've designed and shaped a location-independent business and a lifestyle that's 100% tailored to my own personal definition of success. Oh, and I've also moved countries, I've fallen in love, and I've had 2 beautiful little children. So if you want to redefine what success looks like for you, then get in touch to book a call, onestepoutside.com/call, onestepoutside.com/call, and I'd like to help you do just that.